Question 1. Find the slope of the line through the points -3, 2 and 18, -6. So we're finding slope. We want to use our equation for slope here. So we have slope, which is m, is going to equal, the equation says y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Alright, so here this is the first point they give us. So this is going to be our x1, and this is going to be our y1. This is the second point they give us over here. So this is our second x value, x2. This is our second y value, so y2 here. And now we just plug in to the formula here. So that means here m is going to equal y2 is -6 minus y1, which is 2, over x2, which is 18, minus x1, minus, and x1 is a -3, so we're going to be subtracting -3 there. Alright, on top, -6 minus 2 is going to give us a -8 there. And 18 minus a -3 is going to be the same as a +3 here. So 18 plus 3 gives us 21. So our slope here is m equals -8 over 21. Answer choice D. Question 2. Graph this equation here, -3x minus y equals 0. So let's first see if we can get this in y equals mx plus b form, or in the slope-intercept form. That'll make it easy for us to graph here. So we'll start with our original equation here, and we want to solve this for y. That will help us graph this easier. So we're going to get rid of our -3x on the left side by adding 3x to both sides. So here we get a -y equals a +3x. And now this is really like a -1y, so to get just a y there we need to divide by -1. Change the sign of our y there, so we get just now y. And over here when we divide 3 by -1 we get -3x there, and so this is our equation now solved for y. Alright, and so we can see this is going to be our slope here. This is our slope. Slope is -3, and we need to start at our y-intercept when we graph this. Well, we don't have anything added or subtracted here, so this is like the same as having -3x plus 0. We can think of having nothing being added on to the end here. So that means that our y-intercept is going to be 0. So we have a y-intercept of 0. We start by graphing at the y-intercept. And now we use our slope. -3 is the same as -3 over 1. And so this is our rise, -3 meaning down 3, 1, 2, 3. And then over 1 is going to put us right here for our next point. And so we would just draw a line then through those 2 points. And so we should get a line that looks something like that. And if we look at our answer choices, we can see that that would be answer choice A. Question 3 says determine the slope and y-intercept. So we're looking for 2 things. We're looking for both the slope, the y-intercept. If we can get this equation in slope-intercept form, then we can find the slope and the y-intercept easily. So we want to convert this equation to slope-intercept form, and that is the form y equals mx plus b. So we want to solve this equation for y. First thing we want to do is to move this x term to the other side. So to get rid of a positive 5x, we could subtract 5x from the left side. Do the same thing to the right side. So that's going to give us a -3y on the left equals, these are non-like terms, so we keep them separate, a -5x plus 9. I choose to write the x term first because we can see here this form has the x term in the first and the constant second. So now we need just a y here, and this is negative 3 times y, so we want to do the opposite, which is divide by negative 3. Every term over here now has to be divided by negative 3 also to keep things equal, so we get y here. Y equals 5 over 3 is just going to be 5/3 here. Negative over a negative, that's going to be a positive, 5/3, x. And now here, 9 divided by 3 is going to be 3. And since it's different signs with division, we're going to get a minus there. So this is now in our slope-intercept form. We can see that. So here we can see, looking at this is going to be our m. So m is 5/3. And our b is going to be a negative 3. So in other words, our slope is 5/3. Our y-intercept is negative 3. And this is answer choice D. Question 4, graph the equation x minus 4y equals 8. We have a couple of options here. We can either graph by intercepts, or we can get this in slope-intercept form. Here I'm going to get this in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Alright, so to do that we need to solve for y. So we need to get rid of this positive x here, so we're going to just subtract that x from that side, and then from the right side. So here we're left with just a negative 4y equals negative x plus 8. And now we have negative 4y, so we want to divide by negative 4. Divide each thing over here by negative 4 as well. And so we're left with y equals, which is what we want. Now here this is like a negative 1x here, so 1 divided by 4, that's going to be a fourth, and a positive, or a negative divided by a negative is going to give us a positive, and so that's just 1/4 x. 8 divided by 4 is 2. These are opposite signs, so we get a minus 2 there. Alright, so this is our slope here. And this is our y-intercept. So we start with our y-intercept, which is negative 2. So I'm going to go down 2 from the origin, and my y-intercept is going to be right there. And I'm going to go ahead and draw a point. And then here we have a slope of 1/4. So our rise is 1, meaning we go up 1. And then our run is 4, so we're going to go over 4 and draw a point there. And that will be our second point we're going to use. And so now we can connect these points using a line. So we're going to have the graph looking something like that, going through those 2 points. And we can see that that graph matches up with, if we look at the answer choices, answer choice D here. Question 5. Find the equation of the line with slope 3/2 if it passes through the point negative 4, 3. It says we want to write our answer in slope-intercept form. So our slope-intercept form, let's remember we're going to be writing our equation in the form y equals mx plus b. And remember that m is going to be our slope here. And this is b is our y-intercept here. Okay, so they give us a slope and they give us a point, so we want to use the point-slope equation. That's what we want to use. And that equation is y minus y1, which is the y-coordinate they give us, equals m, which is our slope, times the quantity x minus x1, and x1 is going to be the x-coordinate that they give us. So here, this is my m, my slope is 3/2. The x-coordinate they give us is our x1, so x1 is going to be negative 4. And then the y-coordinate they give us is 3, so 3 is going to be our y1. So now we plug in y minus y1. y1 here is 3. I'm going to put those in parentheses so you can see how we're plugging in. So here m is going to be our 3/2 there. m is 3/2 times x minus x1, and x1 is negative 4. So I'm going to Go ahead and put that there so you can see that. Alright, and now we begin to simplify. Over here on the left we really just have y minus 3 on that side. 3 halves out here, which we're going to have to distribute, but notice, let's first simplify in the parentheses. Minus a negative 4 is really like plus 4, so we'll have x plus 4 in there. And now we distribute our 3 halves. So we get y minus 3 equals 3 halves times x, so that's going to give us 3 halves x. And then 3 halves times a positive 4. So maybe if you want to think of this as a 4 over 1 to help you there. So 3 times 4 would give us a 12 on top, and 2 times 1 on the bottom is going to give us 2 there. And now let's do a little bit of simplifying here before we worry about our y minus 3. So we have y minus 3 equals 3 halves x plus 12 over 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6 here. Okay. Alright, so if I move over here now, so we have y minus 3 equals our 3 halves x plus 6. And then we just want y by itself. We want it in this form here. Y equals, so we need to add 3 to both sides. Not too bad to add 3 to the right side. We're just going to get a 6 plus 3 over there. And so we get 3 halves x plus 9. This is in our slope-intercept form. We have y equals mx plus b form here. Y equals 3 halves x plus 9. And that is answer choice A. Question 6, graph the equation y plus 5 equal x. This is very close already to the form y equals mx plus b. So it'd be easy to put it in that form. We can graph easily from the slope-intercept form. So y plus 5 equal x. To solve for y, we could just simply, to get rid of this add 5, we could subtract 5. So we'll do that to both sides. And so we get y equals x minus 5. Alright, so we're in the slope-intercept form. We can see here this is going to be our intercept, negative 5. So on the y-axis we go down 5. That's going to be our y-intercept there. And then for our slope, this x is really like a 1x. So our slope is going to be 1 here. M is equal to 1, or if you want to think of it as a fraction for your rise over your run, 1 over 1. So from here we would go up 1 and over 1 and draw another point there. That would be a way to do that. And we could then just draw a line through the points there. We're going to get something that looks somewhat like that. And so we can look at our answer choices now based on this, and it looks like we're going to have answer choice B. Answer choice B has the same y-intercept of negative 5 and a slope of 1. Question 7 says find the x and y-intercepts for this equation here. So when we're finding intercepts, we want to remember one thing. And that an intercept, we're talking about an xy coordinates, an intercept is going to be when the opposite variable is 0. And that is true because on the x-axis, if we're finding an x-intercept, y is always 0 on the x-axis. And on the y-axis, x is always 0, so an intercept is when the opposite variable equals 0. So if first we're going to find our x-intercept, then that means we want to look at when y is 0, and that's going to help us find our x-intercept. So our x-intercept, y equals 0, we're going to have the equation negative 3x plus 7y equals 42. And so here, y is going to be 0. So we have negative 3x plus 7 times 0 equals 42. And now the left side just simplifies to negative 3x. And we have equals 42. So now to solve for x, we would just divide by negative 3. Divide both sides by negative 3. And we would get x equals 42 divided by 3 is going to be 14. And since they are opposite signs, positive divided by a negative, we get a negative 14 there. And so our x-intercept, we get that x is negative 14. And we said that y was 0, so this is 0 here. So that's our x-intercept, negative 14 comma 0. And for our y-intercept, remember we set the opposite variable equal to 0. So for y-intercept, x is going to be 0. And so our equation here, we're just going to get negative 3 times 0 plus 7y equals 42. The left side simplifies, we just have 7y over here equals 42. 7 times y, we simplify by dividing by 7 on both sides, and so we get y on the left side, and 42 divided by 7 is 6. And so here, our x comma y, here we said x was 0, so we have 0 for the x-coordinate, and we got a y-coordinate of 6. So with these two coordinates here, we can see this matches answer choice C. Question 8 says, graph the equation y equals 5/3 x plus 2. We can see that this equation's already in slope-intercept form. It's already in the y equals mx plus b form. So right away we can see that our slope here, m, is 5/3. And b, which is so this is our slope, and b is our y-intercept. So we can see this should have a y-intercept of positive 2, and it should have a slope of 5/3. Well, first let's check each graph in our answer choices by looking at the y-intercepts. If we look at A, B, C, and D, we can see they all have the same y-intercept, which is at a positive 2. But if we look at this slope here is 5/3, in other words, our slope m is a positive 5/3, meaning we should go up 5 and over 3. The only two answer choices that have a positive slope, we have answer choice A here, which has a positive slope going up and to the right. And we also have answer choice C. Answer choice C has a positive slope, which also goes up and to the right. B and D do not. They go down and to the right, so they have a negative slope. Here our slope is positive 5/3. So we start with answer choice A, and we look at, well, we have, here is our y-intercept at 2. That's at positive 2 there. And so now we want to find another point where it clearly goes through the grid here. And we can see that it looks like this is really the first point that we have going on here where the line goes through the grid. So we look at our rise and our run now. Here we would need to go up 3 units. So we're going up 3 here. And then we would need to go over 5 to get to that point. So we go over 5. And so here it looks like the line, we're rising 3 and our run is 5. So here on this answer choice, the slope is actually 3 over 5, not what we're looking for. So we look at answer choice C, and we have an intercept of 2. This is at 2 here. And another place where it looks like it crosses the grid is right about here. Looks like it hits that corner there. So we can see going up here, if we go up that direction, that's going to be going up 5 and then going over 3. So we're going to have a rise of 5 and a run of 3, which is what we're looking for. And so answer choice C is what we're going to say is the same as our equation, y equals 5/3 x plus 2. Question 9, find the slope of the line through the points -3, -18 and 10, -18. So we're finding the slope and we have 2 points, so we just want to use our slope equation, which is slope, or m, equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So here this is our first point they give us. So this is our first x-coordinate, x1, our first y-coordinate, y1. This is our second point that they give us over here. So this is our second x-coordinate, x2. This is our second y-coordinate, y2. And so now we can just take these values and plug in. So we have m, or slope, equals y2. So y2 is negative 18, minus y1, which is negative 18. Minus a negative 18 there, over x2, which is 10, minus x1, and x1 is negative 3. And I'm putting these in parentheses here because we have minus a negative, so we want to make sure we don't get confused there. So negative 18 minus a negative 18 is going to be like negative 18 plus 18. And 10 minus a negative 3 is going to be like 10 plus 3. So make sure we can simplify and see what's going on there. Alright, so on top then here, so we have m equals negative 18 plus 18. That's going to be 0 on top. And divided by 10 plus 3 is 13. And we have 0. 0 divided by 13 is still going to be 0. So our slope here is 0. Answer choice A. Question 10. Find the equation of the line that passes through the points negative 6, 1 and negative 9, negative 3. Alright, so when we find the equation of the line, generally we're going to be finding an equation in slope-intercept form. And so we need to know two things to write the equation of the line. We need to know the slope here, and we need to know the y-intercept. So first let's look at finding slope. If we want to find the slope, we have 2 points, then we can use our slope equation, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Alright, and so if this is my first point, then this is going to be x1, y1. If this is my second point, this is x2, y2. And so now we can just take our values and find what our slope is. So we have m equals y2, which is negative 3, minus y1, which is 1 here, over x2, which is negative 9, minus x1, which is negative 6. I'm going to write that in parentheses since I have minus a negative here. Alright, so we can see here this is going to be negative 3 minus 1, or negative 4, over negative 9 minus a negative 6. So this is going to be like plus 6 here. Negative 9 plus 6 is going to be negative 3. And so we get that slope is actually positive 4 over 3 because we have the same sign here, negative over a negative. Alright, so slope is 4/3. And now we can just simply use one of our points here as our x1, y1 in our point slope equation. So now to find the equation of the line, we're going to use our point slope equation. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And again, remember this is our point slope equation that we're using, because we have some points and we now know our slope, so we can use the point slope equation. So let's plug in here. So y minus y1, and here I'm just going to use this point right here. So y1 is 1 there, equals m, which is 4/3, 4 over 3, times x minus x1. So minus a negative 6. Let's just go ahead and write that. Minus negative 6 is going to be like a plus 6 here. Alright, so now we need to distribute our 4 over 3. Y minus 1 equals 4/3 times x is just going to be 4/3 x. And then we need to take 4/3 times 6. Let's sort of look at this here. Maybe we think of this as 6 over 1 since we're multiplying with a fraction. So on top we get 4 times 6. We multiply straight across, we get 24 on top. 3 times 1 on bottom, we're going to get just 3 there. And let's go ahead and this fraction simplifies. We can see that maybe. So we're going to get y minus 1 equals 4/3 x plus 24 divided by 3 is just 8 here. Alright, final step, we want to get y by itself, so we can simply get rid of subtract 1 by adding 1 to both sides, plus 1, and then we're going to figure out what we have. I'll write it over here, a little more room. So we just get y on the left side, we get 4 over 3x, and then our positive 8 plus 1, we would end up with a plus 9 over there. So this is our equation of the line. We have it in mx plus b form, which is what we said we wanted up here. And so y equals 4/3 x plus 9, matching answer choice D. Alright, question 11 says find the x and y-intercepts for x equals negative 5y plus 6. If we remember back in question 7, we said that an intercept is when the opposite variable is 0. So we're basically going to be doing the same thing here. So if we're finding the x-intercept, then that means we're going to be looking at when y equals 0. So to find the x-intercept, we think of y as 0. So we have then in our equation x equals negative 5 times 0, if y is 0, plus 6. And so we simplify very easily. Here we get x on the left side. This part becomes 0 in front, 0 plus 6. So we're just going to get x equals 6 there. So we got x equals 6, and we said y was 0. So 6 comma 0 is going to be our x-intercept. And for our y-intercept, remember when the opposite variable is 0, that would mean that x is 0 at any y-intercept. And so we look at x equals 0, we're going to put 0 in place of x, equals negative 5y plus 6. Alright, and so now we need to solve for y. So we could do this a couple of different ways. I'm just going to go ahead and I think add 5y to both sides. We don't have to do that. We could move our 6, but I'm going to go ahead and just move the y. That's going to make that easy. We get a positive 5y here equals 6, because our y canceled over here. And now we have 5 times y. We need to divide by 5 to solve for y. And so we get y equals 6 over 5. And so here we said x was 0, and we got that y was 6/5, or 6 over 5. Alright, and so we have intercepts of 6 comma 0 and 0 comma 6/5, and that is answer choice B. Question 12, find y if the line through 2 comma 5 and 8 comma y has a slope of 3. So we have 2 points here and a slope we're referring to, so we're going to be using the slope equation. So m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Alright, and so here we want to determine what these are here. So this is the first point we're given, so this is x1, this is y1. Second point we're given, so this is x2 and this is y2. And they've actually given us the slope this time. They've given us already the slope is 3. So instead of solving for m like we normally do, we're going to be solving for one of the pieces on the right-hand side. Okay, so let's use this information, plug into our equation here. So m they gave us already, which is 3, equals y2 is y here, minus y1, and y1 is 5, over x2, which is 8, minus x1, which is 2. Okay, so right away here we can simplify one of these 3 parts, the 8 minus 2 we know, so we can simplify this to 3 equals y minus 5 over 6. And now when we get to this point here, we have a fraction over here. Maybe one way to do this would be to use the cross product, or to cross multiply. We could think of this 3 as 3 over 1, and then we can use the cross product. The cross product tells us that 3 times 6, so that diagonal, 3 times 6 there, is going to equal the other diagonal, 1 times y minus 5. Okay, so now we can simplify both sides. 3 times 6 gives us 18, and 1 times y minus 5 is just y minus 5. And now the last step to solve is to get rid of the minus 5 by adding 5 to both sides. And 18 plus 5 on the left, we get 23, equals y on the right side. So y is 23, and that is answer choice E. Question 13, find the slope and y-intercept. So here we have an equation. This is in standard form. And if we're trying to find the slope and the y-intercept, then the best thing to do is really to convert the equation into slope-intercept form, because we want to know the slope and the y-intercept. So if we can get it in slope-intercept form, which remember is y equals mx plus b, then that's going to give us the slope, which is m, and the y-intercept, which is b. So let's convert this to slope-intercept form by solving for y. So here if we have 6x minus y equals 5, we want to get y by itself. So I don't want the 6x with the y. I need to get rid of the 6x on the left side. So I'm going to subtract 6x from the left side and then also from the right side. So that's going to make the 6x go away. We're left with negative y equals, and since notice over here the x term is first and then the number, so I'm going to go ahead and write that sort of in the same form. I'm going to write my negative 6x first and then my positive 5 after that. That looks a little bit more like this form here, which is going to help out. And so now we have a negative y. We don't want negative y, we just want y. So think of this really as a negative 1y, same as negative y. So we need to divide by that negative 1 and divide everything over here by negative 1 as well, which is going to just give us a positive y now. And we can look here, 6 over 1 is still 6x, but a negative divided by a negative, same sign, is going to leave that a positive 6x. 5 divided by 1 is 5, and the signs are opposite here, so we're going to be left with a minus 5 there. We have our equation now in slope-intercept form, y equals 6x minus 5. So remember mx, m being 6 here, m is our slope, and b is negative 5 here. So our slope is 6, our y-intercept is negative 5, and we can see that is answer choice A. Question 14 says complete the ordered pairs. So here we're given an equation, and we're giving 3 pairs, and we're only giving 1 coordinate out of the ordered pair there. So what they want us to do is they want us to use the information from this ordered pair and use the equation, and then we can solve for the other coordinates. So in other words, here they're giving us the y coordinate, and we're asked to find the x coordinate here. So we're going to use this equation. So for the first one, they're telling us y equals 8. So if y equals 8, then that would give us negative 5x plus 2y, 2 times 8, equals 20. And now we just simplify here. So we have negative 5x plus 2 times 8 is going to be 16 there, equals 20. And now we solve for x, so we want to get rid of this non-x term here. Opposite of plus 16, we subtract 16. And so here we get negative 5x. That's going to go away. 20 minus 16 is 4. And now we have a negative 5 times x, so we do the opposite of multiply by negative 5, which is divide by negative 5. And so we're just going to get x there. And here we have negative 4/5. So that means our x coordinate here for this equation should be negative 4/5. Alright, for the next one, here they're giving us a y coordinate of 0. So the next one we're going to be using y is 0. So we have negative 5x plus 2y, which is 0, equals 20. And simplifying our multiplication there, we're just left with negative 5x plus 2 times 0 would be 0, so nothing added there. So just equals 20. And now we have, again, the negative 5 times x. So again, we're going to divide both sides by negative 5 like we did before. And we're just left with x on the left side now. and 20 divided by negative 5, so 20 divided by 5 is 4, and these are opposite signs, so it's a negative 4, and x equals negative 4, so our x-coordinate there for that one is negative 4. And now in this last one, notice they're giving us, instead of the y, they actually gave us the x this time, and they want us to find the y. So here they gave us x equals negative 2. We want to make sure we plug in for the correct value and don't get tricked because the last two are y. So here, negative 5x, x is negative 2, plus 2y equals 20. Alright, so negative 5 times negative 2, 5 times 2 is 10, and a negative times a negative is going to leave us with a positive 10 there. So 10 plus 2y is 20. We see it already. Let's go ahead and solve. So we'll get the y by itself by subtracting 10 first. And so we get 2y left over here. 20 minus 10 is 10. And the last thing to do to solve for y is divide by 2. And so here we get y equals 5. And that is our last thing we're solving for there. So if we look at our answer choices there, we should have negative 4/5 comma 8, negative 4 comma 0, and negative 2 comma 5. That is answer choice B. Question 15 says graph the equation y minus 3 equals 0. So first thing we want to do here is solve for y. I think that'd be best to get y by itself on one side of the equal sign. And so really just to do that, to figure out what y equals, we just need to add 3 to both sides. And so here we're just left with y equals 0 plus 3 is 3. So here we have an equation y equals 3. Now this is a little bit different. Usually we have some sort of a slope-intercept form or a standard form or something with 2 variables in it. This is an equation just with 1 variable. And the thing we want to remember is whenever we have just an equation with 1 variable and we're graphing it in our xy plane here, a 1 variable equation is going to either be a vertical or a horizontal line. And the way we remember what it is whichever variable appears in the equation, that tells which axis that the line is going to cross here. So this is telling us that our line is going to cross the y-axis. Okay, so if we're thinking about it crossing the y-axis somewhere, then it would need to be a horizontal line. If it crossed the x-axis, it would be vertical. So this is telling us it crosses the y-axis, and it tells us where it crosses it. It crosses it at 3. So it's going to be a horizontal line crossing the y-axis at 3. And we can see then that our line should look something like that, crossing at 3. And if we look at our answer choices, we can see that that is answer choice A. Question 16. Find the equation of the line through negative 4 comma 5 with a slope of negative 5. So here we're given a point here, and they give us the slope. The slope is negative 5. So if we have a point and a slope and we want to find the equation of the line, then we can just use the point-slope equation. And remember the slope equation, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Alright, so let's go ahead and identify all of our information we have here. This is our first and only point they give us, so this is the x-coordinate of the first point, and this is the y-coordinate of the first point, so those are x1 and y1. And our slope, we always abbreviate as m, so our m is negative 5. So we'll go ahead and just plug those values in now. So we have a y minus y1, y1 is 5, equals m is negative 5, slope is negative 5, times the quantity x minus x1. X minus x1, so we'd have minus negative 4, that's going to be the same as plus 4 there. Alright, so now we can distribute our negative 5. So we'll leave our y minus 5 over here on the left side. And we have negative 5 times x, so negative 5x there. Negative 5 times a positive 4. 5 times 4 is 20. Negative times a positive is going to be a negative 20 there. And now to get y by itself, the last step is to get rid of the minus 5 by adding 5 to both sides. So we get y equals negative 5x, and our negative 20 plus 5 would give us a minus 15. So we get an equation of y equals negative 5x minus 15. Answer choice C. Question 17 says determine the x-intercept from the equation y equals negative 3 halves x minus 7. So we want to be careful here that we don't read this as y-intercept. If we read this as y-intercept, we'd look at this equation and we'd look and we'd say, well, this is b here and it's negative 7, and we might answer that, okay, so it must have some sort of coordinate that has negative 7 in it. So we want to make sure that we see that this is x-intercept here. And remember from a couple of the earlier questions that an intercept is when the opposite variable is 0. So an x-intercept, remember, is going to mean that y equals 0 here. So we can see this is not quite as easy as it could be if they said y-intercept. So here if y is 0, that would mean that 0 equals negative 3 halves x minus 7. And so now we want to solve for x. So we should get the minus 7 away from the right side. So to get rid of minus 7 on the right side, we could add 7. So let's add 7 to both sides. So here we get 7 equals negative 3 over 2x. Now we have negative 3 halves times x, and the way we can get 1x there is to get rid of the multiply by negative 3 halves, and the way we do that is by multiplying by the reciprocal of this negative 3 halves here, because that's what we're trying to get rid of. We just want 1, and in order to get 1, we multiply a fraction by its reciprocal. The reciprocal of negative 3 halves is negative 2 over 3, so that's what we're going to multiply that side by, so we must multiply this side also by negative 2 over 3. So multiplying by the reciprocal on the right is just going to give us x. And then if we're multiplying over here, maybe we think of this as negative 2/3 times 7 over 1. A little bit easier to see there. So we can see 2 times 7 is 14. 3 times 1 is going to give us 3 on the bottom, and these are opposite signs, so this must be a negative 14/3. And so now we want to make sure, because notice if you look at the answer choices now, answer choices A and C look very, very different, but very, very the same. And so we want to see that x is negative 14/3, so that should be our first coordinate. Y equals 0, y is our second coordinate, so we want negative 14/3 in the front and 0 in the back, and that's going to get us an answer choice of C there. Question 18, find the slope of the line through the points 10x, 3 and 4x, 5. Okay, so we're finding slope and we're given 2 points, so just like usual we're going to be using our m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, our slope equation here. The only real difference here from most questions is that instead of just giving us numerical values for all of our 4 values here, we actually have a variable still included here. So we look, this is going to be our x1. Here I'm going to use y1 here. This will be my x2. And this is going to be my y2. So using that, I'm going to get that m equals, so y2 is 5 here, and y1 is 3, so y2 minus y1 is 5 minus 3. And on the bottom, x2 minus x1, so 4x minus x1 is 10x here. Okay, so now we're going to get that m equals, we have 2 variables, but let's sort of see what happens here. 5 minus 3 on top is going to give us 2, and on the bottom we're going to have 4x minus 10x, so we're going to have minus 6x. And so we have m equals 2 over negative 6x. And we see here maybe that 2 over 6 simplifies as a fraction, and 2 over 6 is the same as 1 over 3. So we cancel the common factor of 2 here. meaning if we divide by 2 on the top, we get a 1. If we divide by 2 on the bottom, we get a 3 there instead of a 6. And so we can see that m equals 1 over negative 3x, and our answer there is the same as choice A. Question 19, determine the y-intercept. So here we have 4x equals y minus 6. Y-intercept, so it's easy to find the y-intercept. There are a couple of ways to do this. First way, if we find the y-intercept, remember for a y-intercept, that means the opposite variable is 0, so we could just plug in 0 for x. That would give us a y-intercept. So if we do that, we would have 4 times 0 equals y minus 6. So here 4 times 0 is going to give us 0 equals y minus 6. And to solve for y now we just need to get rid of the subtract 6 on the right side. So opposite of that would be add 6, which we do to both sides. 0 plus 6 would give us 6 there, equals y. And so our y-intercept, we had x equals 0 and y equals 6. So 0, 6 is our y-intercept. Answer choice E. Question 20. Find the equation of the line with x-intercept 5 and y-intercept negative 3. So remember, when we are finding an equation of a line, generally we're going to be looking for an equation that is in the form of y equals mx plus b, or the slope-intercept form. So we need to know what m is, the slope there, and then we also need to then find out what the y-intercept is. Okay, so first we look at finding the slope. They give us 2 points here. They just don't give us directly what all the coordinates are. So think about for an x-intercept of 5, an x-intercept is when the other variable is 0. So this is telling us that at x-intercept, so y is 0, and the x value then must be 5. So this is really just another way of giving us that our first point is 5, 0. And then here a y-intercept of negative 3. So for an intercept, the opposite variable is 0. This is telling us x is 0, and y, I guess, then is negative 3. So this would be the point 0, negative 3. So a little bit different way of giving us 2 points. And so now that we have 2 points, we can find slope, because our slope equation uses 2 points. So I'll call this my x1 and this my y1, since that's the first point they gave me. And this will be my x2 and my y2. And now we can find the slope using that information. So we use the slope equation. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right, y2 is negative 3 minus y1, which is 0. x2 is 0 minus x1, which is 5. On top here, negative 3 minus 0 is going to give us negative 3. On the bottom, 0 minus 5, negative 5. And we generally want to simplify a negative over a negative. That's going to give us a positive 3/5 for our slope. All right, and so now that we have a slope, we have our slope, and we need to get this final equation here. So to find the equation, we have a slope and at least 1 point, so we can use our point slope equation. And so our point slope equation, remember y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And so let's just use the information we have now. So we have y minus, our y1 is 0 here, equals m. We found m, it was 3/5, so 3 over 5, times x minus x1, x minus, and x1 here is 5. All right, we can see right away y minus 0. Let's just simplify the left side. We'll leave that with just y there. That's good. And now we need to, on the right, distribute our 3/5. So 3/5 times x, that's going to give us 3/5 x. And then 3/5 times negative 5, if you want to think of this because this is a fraction, you could think of this as 5 over 1. That might make the multiplication easier. So when we distribute that, 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times 1 on the bottom would be 5. And now here, this is a positive, this is a negative. Opposite signs when we multiply is going to leave us with a negative or a minus there. And we can now simplify this fraction. We have a common factor there. So we get y equals 3/5 x minus 15 divided by 5 is 3. So we have the equation of the line there, y equals 3/5 x minus 3. And that is answer choice D.